Well, hello everyone. Earlier today, I saw Avatar Fire and Ash, the third film in the Avatar saga, written and directed by James Cameron, and I will definitely say this right off. I mean, it's similar in both tone and quality to the previous installment, about the same, I'd say, in terms of quality. But it is visually stunning, even if the character story archetypes can be familiar, and it definitely is bolstering that. Like, it's another situation where even like the ones I did skim through, I can say that those who are not into this need not reply, and if you are, then you know exactly what you're in for. I will say that it's another instance where it's like James wanted to make a big scale war epic with a science fiction twist, so he made one again. So let's begin. The story picks up just about where the events of the previous installment left off where, where Jake Sully, alias Fam, is still adjusting to life after the events of previous installments, and however, the matter is not only complicated further by a Miles Kordick still wanting to end Jake and reclaim his biological son, Spider, but also a new tribe of Na'vi who were born in a volcano and worship not the deity Awa, but the fire and ash, and their leader, Varong. And that was one of the things that intrigued me the most. It was the idea of having like a antagonistic force in Navi, and that is the one thing that also is so one of the strongest elements, the world building, and they kept that stronger. Like, I do not have this syndrome I've heard people about wanting to return to this place, but I would not say no to visiting this new expansion to the park that had Animal Kingdom with this theming. I could definitely say that much right away. And definitely, even though there's a lot of lore added in this film and a lot of new expansion to the world itself, thankfully, in order to follow along what the characters, both heroic and antagonistic, ultimately want is indeed simple. Well, when you break it down, the Sullys want to keep their family safe, if Varong and Korok want their heads, and the story explores how they intend to get that, especially. Obviously, any further adventures on the moon of Pandora are going to be dependent on how well this one does, and even though it's not quite as much noise being made about this one as the last couple, it is clear to me that it is going to make bank. I can tell you that much for free. Hey, and it definitely feels quite dreamlike in its all the things it presents, especially when we're getting into sort of space between spaces. But if this was truly a dream, then how did I get this commemorative cup as well that I just rinsed out? Because I don't want to get ants, but I definitely want to place with my other ones I have. I could see myself having more in the near future, especially. And I gotta say that out of all the ones that opened this week, and this one that was clearly marketed the most extensively, I mean, he definitely saturated as much as they could with with advertising and even in quite a few everything from like the replicas of these crab mechas I really enjoy. They're back. Yep, they're back from the last movie, and even the most adorable little Funkos of the new characters. Even as that company is kind of going through a rough spot right now, how And with that being the case, a lot of the actors reprised their roles almost from the previous installments, and I definitely was correct in my insinuation that Spider would be key to the conflict of these ones, even as the discourse he's generated among the audiences and the fan base. I mean, it is definitely a clear to me, and not that I mind this all, but people compare this to being like this Friends Return of the Jedi, and I'm actually inclined to agree as someone who really likes that film, where it's as much about how how character and story progression is about wonder and spectacle, all with functionally Spider becoming a Luke and Quaritch becoming like our Vader in more ways than one. I won't say exactly why, but it should tip you off to how things are going to progress, even though I won't get into all of that, especially. Of course, whereas opposing forces are a recurring theme in this franchise, and this one actually builds upon that especially. He, it's not often that I've seen multiple types of conflict being used to drive a story. He, he being individual versus individual, individual versus group, individual versus tradition, nature versus technology, slash military. But, and these are just ones to top of my head, but they definitely found a way between individuals, groups, and even entire legions, especially. A And of course, there's yet another new item being sought by RDA. This time, I was going to wonder how they're going to find a way to keep Spider alive after his life support system starts failing. But in order to do so, they have to use resources on the planet, which helps him, a human, adapt to it. Which, of course, they want to monetize. Admittedly, the idea of militaristic decorum giving way to napalm and bullheadedness, as well as not just exploiting in suffering, but also commodifying it, is not really much of a stretch anymore. I mean, I have heard that saying before, don't need to repeat it here, but I will also offer another common saying about the subtext, especially as it gets spit to the big finale. Make your own assumptions. And also, it's another installment where he also adds like the element of not only shooting the more effects shooting the whole movie in 3D basically, but also the higher frame speed, experimentation where, again, especially happens in the finale, there's one notice it the most where things move a bit quicker. But I didn't mind it. It did make things a bit. So I had to hit the head before things really started hitting the fan more than one. But again, so I watched the Hobbit trilogy in the higher frame speed format before, or especially since some of my newer displays have faster refresh rates than they've ever did before. That didn't bother me too much. I might finally give that Frontier Pandora game a try if it's free with my PS Plus, which also comes with Uplay, because given the current state of the hate of Ubisoft as a company, we'll talk more on my gaming vlog to close of the year, I certainly wouldn't have bought it. And with that in mind, I can definitely say, hey, that it's another example of how, even though James may often ruffle some feathers with some of the details of his personal thoughts on matters, as filmmakers sometimes do, while to respect Quentin, and I'm with Lilith on this one, as well as Dano. And I definitely understand why he keeps making stuff. Like, he also has a variety of work on his belt. Out of all the films that I've seen from him, I think the only one I've really had an issue with the same one he was not particularly proud of. That was the infamous Piranha 2, The Spawning. In fact, the bad case of food poisoning he had and the fever dreams that ensue from that are what helped inspire him when the Terminator franchise, which I'll be watching how close this year. Like I often do that, watch and talk movies about the future, but he's even got ideas for another one of those. It could work. I mean, I have to think about how it would progress, but that anime was really on Netflix got another season, and he's even doing a war biopic that could also be interesting. Like, he certainly got a lot of spinning plates, but he was pretty forward thinking to have like the visuals and storyline for this worked out so far in advance, especially factoring in the strikes, the pandemic, which we're still feeling the effects of in terms of industry. Even works I enjoyed that are my favorites of the year are were impacted by that. I wouldn't quite place this on my favorites list, I would say, this time around, but given how many I've seen and how many I've enjoyed, it's definitely an honorable mention to be sure.
Hmm.
And with that, I definitely have a few ones left I want to cover before or the end of this year. Or, I mean, one of them will be one that came out this year, but others came out much further ago. You'll just have to wait and see what they are, though. Especially since I've already had to reshuffle some things again into 2026, especially based on current events and how things keep changing. You know what I mean? And bottom line on this movie, he Avatar: Fire and Ash is definitely a movie that is has familiar archetypes in its story and characters, but is also bolstered by flaming, awe-inspiring visuals. I mean, it is very much in the same spirit as the previous installments, to the point where I had to wonder if I hadn't just walked into that one on by mistake. It's like suddenly it's 3 years ago. Oh, and I wouldn't be giving too much away. Hey, about the future, or even using my actual given name. It'd be an alias in all likelihood. But I would say something simple. Be prepared for it. And it's now, so make it what you will. So I'll give this movie a piping hot 4 out of 5, 3 out of 4. I'd say that kind of smolder is worth the ticket price. So that'll be all for now. I'll see you all again very soon. I wish everyone a happy winter solstice this evening. So take care.